uniform tax exemption policy. And secondly, any other such business as may be appropriate by the members in attendance at such special meeting of the agency, signed by myself, Jeffrey Chris, Chairman, dated January 21st, 2020. And I would like to clarify for the attendance, people attending today, our public hearing for this project will continue on February 11th at 5:30. This is not the appropriate time for public comment related to the project, as was noticed and just read in our meeting notice. It's for a resolution authorizing a pilot deviation notice for this project. I would also acknowledge we've received a number of letters, emails objecting to this meeting, and as a courtesy and out of respect for some response to that, I've asked our counsel, Bob McLaughlin, to comment on the meeting today. Bob.
Thank you, Mr.
Chair. And
Yeah.
Maybe it's me, I have problems with microphones.
Yeah, you do.
I do. Thank you, Mr. Chair and the board members. I did want to address the objections to the special meeting that we received yesterday, probably maybe a dozen objections saying the notice was improper, this meeting is improper. I do want to just go through the Public Offices Law, Article 7. Section 103 talks about open meetings. Section 103A states that every meeting of a public body shall be open to the general public. I believe the general public is here, the meeting is open. Section B says public bodies shall make or cause to be made all reasonable efforts to ensure that meetings are held in facilities that permit barrier-free physical access to the physically handicapped. This meeting room qualifies under that section as well. Section 103D states public bodies shall make or cause to be made all reasonable efforts to ensure that meetings are held in an appropriate facility which can adequately accommodate members of the public who wish to attend such meetings. And again, this meeting room qualifies and satisfies that provision. Public notice is governed by Section 104 of the Public Offices Law. Section 104.1 states that a public notice of the time and place of a meeting scheduled at least 1 week prior thereto shall be given to the news media and shall be conspicuously posted in one or more designated public locations at least 72 hours before such meeting. This meeting was not scheduled 1 week prior, so there is no requirement to comply with Section 1. 104.2 states that the public notice of the time and place of every other meeting, meaning meetings not scheduled 1 week in advance, shall be given to the extent practical to the news media and shall be conspicuously posted in one or more designated public locations at a reasonable time prior thereto. Your meeting notice, as I understand it, from the Secretary to the Board, was posted on the afternoon of January 21st in Town Hall and was provided to the news media also on January 21st in that afternoon. And then finally, 104.5 states that when a public body has the ability to do so, notice of the time and place of a meeting given in accordance with subdivision 1 or 2 provisions I just read, shall also be conspicuously posted on the public body's internet website. And as I understand it, the Secretary also provided to your web provider the notice on the afternoon of January 21st. So the objections to the meeting, although I understand them, are not supported by the statute, and in my opinion, this special meeting was duly noticed and can be properly held.
Thank you, Bob. And I might just follow up. It's this board's intention to be transparent. There was some question if this meeting was even required, and we felt it would be more appropriate to carry out the meeting and be completely transparent in referencing the further consideration for moderation of the pilot. And this is detailed on a letter from White, Osterman, and Hannah dated January 21st. It's been posted to our website, and I'm gonna ask the applicant, Steve Butte, to just briefly review the details of that modification, under consideration. Steve?
So you want to try this? Testing. Thank you, members of the agency. I trust that you've all seen a copy of the letter and read it, so I won't go through the entire letter, just to highlight a few points. We've considered the issues raised at the January 6th meeting by the town board and school district. Does that work? To that end, and because of that, we are offering to modify the first 5 years of the pilot from a 90% abatement to an 80% abatement. According to our estimates in year one, the combined pilot payment, existing land tax, and ad valorem tax would provide approximately $786,000 annually, an increase of $740,000 compared to the existing tax payment, effectively doubling the taxes paid annually as compared to the prior offer. Over 5 years, the payments will total close to $4 million as compared to the current taxes being paid, would total $250,000 over the same period. We hope that this offer is acceptable, and we hope for your support. Thank you.
Thanks, Steve. And just to be clear, the expectation today, and Bob, correct me if I'm wrong, is just to properly communicate this draft modification to the taxing authorities, and also to have the appropriate time for public comment to the same.
Correct. So this resolution is exactly the same or very similar to the resolution that the board considered on December 3rd. Then you passed a resolution that authorized the chair to send a notice to the taxing jurisdictions, which in this case will be the school district, the county, as well as the town, of your intention to consider a proposed deviation from your existing uniform tax exempt policy. That deviation back on December 3rd was voted to send a letter stating that instead of 100% over the first 5 years for the exemption, that the IDA board was considering a 90% exemption, and you welcomed the comments from both the town and the school district on that deviation. In light of the letter that was received on January 21st, and consistent with this board's intention to be totally transparent to the public, I've prepared a second notice resolution that would authorize the chair to send a notice to the same taxing jurisdictions, advising them of the deviation over the first 5 years from your existing policy. Instead of 100% exemption, it would now be considered to be an 80% exemption over that same 5-year period. The board is not being asked by this resolution to make any conclusions, no final determinations at this time, simply to send a notice like this board considered in December to be consistent with the general municipal law provisions as well as the provisions of your uniform tax exempt policy, which states that to the extent practical, you should give 30 days notice of a deviation unless you're not allowed to do that. In this case, we're trying to get the deviation notice out and approved. And the whole purpose is so that the public can consider, as well as the taxing jurisdictions consider it, before the February 11th public hearing, the continuation of the hearing that started on January 6th. I'm happy to take any questions that the board may have.
Questions, board, related to this proposed modification? The only thing I would say is this board negotiated a 90% exemption from the full 100% earlier in the process from our normal pilot in the first 5 years. And this, in effect, just to simplify, doubles the amount of tax or pilot that will be paid in that first 5 years by the applicant. So no matter what people's opinion might be about it, it does double the amount, and significantly so the amount of the pilot payment in the first 5 years. I would ask for a motion to accept the resolution that's in draft form right now, to send this modification to the taxing authorities. Is that worded properly, Bob?
Motion.
Motion by Matt, is there a second to that motion?
I
By
second.
John, any other discussion on the motion? Hearing no other discussion, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Mr. Chair, I'm sorry, roll call.
Okay, I'll start on my left. Matt?
Yes.
You're in favor, okay. Steve?
I abstain.
Bob?
Yes.
I'm in favor.
I'm in favor.
Ed? John?
Yes. Yes.
So we have 6 yeses and 1 abstention. That motion is carried to approve the resolution. I would also like to just comment on the thought process and in review of a possible schedule. Certainly the continuation of the public hearing for this project will reconvene on February 11th at 5:30, as I earlier stated. There's a distinct possibility that the board would close the public hearing at the end of that meeting. But we had lengthy discussion during the public hearing process on January 6th. And I would like to inform the board that in consultation with our council, I would consider a special meeting within the 2 or 3 days after the public hearing for a special meeting to consider a decision on the application. That way, it'll allow the board not to be pressed on making a decision the night the public hearing is likely to be closed, but would provide us some avenue to make a decision in a timely manner. Any comments, board, on that process? Thank you. I might also say, again, in the interest of transparency and now, of course, following the appropriate regulations for the IDAs, this meeting is being live streamed today, so those that could not be here will be able to view it through that process. Is there any other business that should come before us today at this special meeting? Okay, Sid? I would suggest a motion to conclude this meeting. By Bob, second.
Second.
Second by John, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same? Meeting adjourned. Thank you, everybody, for coming.